Disney's Snow White hits theaters in just 4 days. That's right. Hard to believe, huh? We barely talked about it, right? Well, the Mouse House is already running scared. In the UK, not having a red carpet event, the half-baked Spain premiere that was just cringe as all get out, and the El Capitan event was slashed from a enormous red carpet event to a pre-party snooze fest enclosed space that looked more like a lightly attended Comic-Con in Los Angeles. So what's the deal? Well, X has been buzzing with all kinds of leaks from the inside. You've got huge budget cuts to the marketing budget, and you've got a Dwarf backlash, believe it or not. Grumpy himself, Martin Klebba, is calling out Disney for burying the cast and hiding the fact that there were dwarves that were, in the original that could have been represented by 6 other actors. But if you remember back to our March 1st video predicting this entire mess, well, there were 12,000 of you that watched it, and you all were in agreement that this was the likely outcome. And here we are, a complete disaster. More dismal Disney coming your way. It's showtime. Here we go. So, uncharacteristically, there was all kinds of premiere panic. We talked about it kind of leading up to this event, but just how uncomfortable all of this had become. Not just for Disney, but for the cast. And not just the cast that doesn't like each other, which is obviously Gal-Gadot and Rachel Zegler. We're talking about the cast members that were there and missing, well, their counterparts, their other dwarf actors. That really hit things the wrong way, and Martin Klebba talked about it. But so did everybody else that was kept out, and I've got some elements to show you for that as well. But the March 21st rollout is basically going to be a ghost town. There's not going to be a lot of pomp and circumstance after the events that happened over the weekend, because Saturday night you got the red carpet El Capitan breakdown, and that didn't look very good. But what really didn't look good was the fact that the press wasn't allowed to engage with those on the red carpet, which is uncharacteristic in so many different ways. It only reflects what happened for the Flash. And of course, you have the big glitzy thing that almost always certainly happens in Leicester Square in the UK, and that didn't happen at all. It got canceled. And beyond the insider chatter that confirms this thing was well over a $200 million mistake, the expenditures for press to promote the events and this film has been cut back dramatically. And Disney seems to be in the position where they're just bracing for a flop. But can you blame them? I don't think so. Looking to this story from that Park Place, we go back to March 6th, where Martin was already writing about the fact that the premiere backlash was a real problem in the UK, so they just eliminated it by eliminating the premiere. The fears around the film at the time were, well, Rachel Zegler, but also kind of the political events that are happening in the Middle East and how the two stars of this film just don't seem to like each other, and boy, do we have images of that. The decision to cut off the UK event reflected that Disney understands how negatively the film has been received, and they're now taking steps to limit the damage as much as possible ahead of its March 21 release. Well, we're only a few days away from that, and then Disney can get it behind them, as a lot of headlines have suggested they just want to do. Worse yet, as is said in the subheadline here, there's more signs of trouble. For example, the box office projections for this film continuing to drop and expectations dropping with them. A $43 to $53 million range tells you that this particular film, which was supposed to be a massive tentpole, may not have the legs to get it past its 4th, 5th, or 6th week, which would be a complete disaster considering that this thing is it before we get to May for Disney to something that might actually earn money. Thunderbolts, but I wouldn't bank on that. Because of the huge over expenditure that Snow White became, they need to make somewhere between 600 to 700 million globally, conservatively, in order to break even. I suspect that the goal is going to be much, much higher, but we'll see in just a few days after I review the film and then call out what I really think this thing could make. Let's return to Segovia, Spain. Why? Well, because that was the place Disney felt comfortable doing some kind of European premiere. And this one was, let me have the Daily Mail explain it to you. Inside the Snow White premiere, so woke it had to be held in secret. A remote Spanish castle, no press, just one star, and a handful of influencers, while Jewish Gal-Gadot is missing. Well, of course, they don't like each other. Plus, this chick is only good for singing with an average voice. She's just good enough for Broadway, but not great enough for the big time. Hey, sorry, if you like this girl, I don't apologize. She's middling talent at best, middling looks at best, and a middling performer all around, which means Broadway, here you come. So, Rachel Zegler stepped out at a remote castle in Segovia, northwest of Madrid, to perform for select VIPs after Disney scaled back the event following a series of scandals and PR nightmares surrounding the divisive remake. That is quite the sentence, powerful and accurate. Notably, her co-star Gal Gadot, who has also come under the spotlight for her casting as the evil queen, was not in attendance, and director Mark Webb was the only other person involved with the movie who attended, which can tell you an absolute tale in and of itself, because I don't think Mark probably wanted to be there either. This is 4, 5, 6 years of his life that have gone completely down the toilet that he probably won't be able to put first and foremost on his resume. Although Disney may think highly of him for walking it through to the end, rumored writer Greta Gerwig tried to scuttle this one in her career and walk away from it, claiming she really didn't have that much influence there. Well, I hope for her sake that comes out to be true, because she's already considered as woke as you get, and the audience just isn't interested in that kind of stuff anymore, if they ever were. Have you ever seen a modern audience? I haven't. Outside of the amazing performance of Barbie, I don't think Greta Gerwig has much of a career in front of her. Maybe as an actress, but probably not. The small town of Segovia only has about 51,000 people, and local Spanish influencers and family members were among those chosen VIP. In other words, this was hidden away as far as it could be from the general public, so as not to have something that could embarrass Disney, or couldn't be easily covered up. But if you want to talk the splashy red carpet opening premiere, well, there was one. It was held on Saturday. And if you take a look at the events of the 15th premiere, the stars put on a united front, at least according to TMZ. And, take it with a grain of salt if you will, but TMZ seems to be right on the cusp of reporting this particular piece of news very accurately. And they talk about Snow White's premiere amid tensions that were pretty obvious. These two ladies do not like each other. And yet, according to the article, Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler were all smiles at Saturday night's premiere of Snow White in Hollywood. Despite all the negative press surrounding the film remake, the actresses stood side by side on the red carpet, making sure not to touch each other, and they could not have looked happier, posing for pics alongside the movie's producer, Mark Platt, and director Mark Webb, and songwriters Benj Pasek and Justin Paul. Certainly not standouts when it comes to the tunes here. Pictured here, you check the stance of both of these ladies, specifically for Rachel Zegler, who has a habit of putting her arms back as far as she possibly can, and when she's close to Gal Gadot, tucking them behind her. Well, Gal's not exactly the most pleasant when she's around Zegler either, considering that this is a pose that you'll see more than a few times while on the red carpet, especially close to Zegler. Except she's making sure she doesn't get anywhere near Zegler as well. If they were a couple, they'd be in divorce court right now. But ultimately have to turn into the controversy, the fact that there really is only one dwarf in the film, Martin Klebba, and none of the other people that should have been featured. For example, you can see here, he missed the iconic 7 dwarves for a reason. Disney is a chicken-hearted group of fools at this point, and they are constantly putting it on display. And all of that comes because of Peter Dinklage. That's right, his little 2022 backward story jab about the dwarves being in this particular film, well, it ruined roles for everybody. Disney pivoted to CGI magical creatures, and that still haunts the film to this day. Martin Klebba, who was voicing Grumpy, told the Hollywood Reporter this week that he was bummed and pissed. And you know what? I'm with him. The CGI fix was never really supposed to be there, and the lies around the magical creatures and the actors playing them are going to be shaking out here as the film is released. Whether or not the 7 dirty hippies were just thieves that were part of Michael Burnham's troupe, or they actually were supposed to be the replacements for the Dwarves, we may never really know, except that the pictures from all the way back when sure show us what they intended to do with that particular cast of miscreants. I have no issue with whatever direction Disney wanted to take this film. I just have the issue of them trying to destroy the original, because this thing is nothing like 1937 and will be a proven disaster in the very near future. Earlier, I referred to the March 1st video that, we did together. I mean, I did the video. You guys watched it. Over 12,000 of you, 13,000. I don't even know at this point. But what I do know is that we nailed the fact that Disney's panic at that point was baked in. Now it's just on complete and full display. And looking at a $60 million or less opening weekend has opened Disney up for not just mockery, but outright financial disaster. And all of this is coming on a day when they want to put their best foot forward, their annual stockholders meeting. This is going to be a very rough March 20th for Disney. With nothing but bad news to reflect upon as far as this particular film, I would say this is a flop fest jackpot, something that, well, almost anybody could have predicted. And now with Disney waving the white flag before the battle even starts, did they just dwarf their own hype? Martin Klebba and many other dwarf actors would probably say they definitely did. And as always, hit that like button down below if you saw this train wreck coming. If you were in agreement the whole time, since all the way back in March 1st. Double check that you're still subscribed to the channel. If not, hit the subscribe button. It's absolutely free. It'll always be free. Give me a comment or two. Let me know what you think of this film and where it will end up. Is it going to earn 50 million on its opening? 100 million on its opening? Is it going to be $1 billion film? All of those things can be said down in the comment section below. As always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya for real.